What's going on, guys? This is Travesty here, and today I am back. Welcome to 2026. I had a bit of time off at the end of last year. Went away on a lovely little trip overseas, and now we're back in with another draft league. So we did miss a season of the PPL in there, but I'm sure that'll be back around once Champion/Gen 10 roll around. In the meantime, lovely people behind the PPL, mostly being Amber, have decided to put together a little league called the UCDL. Now, I have been told what this actually stands for, and I tried to come up with some options, and we're just going to go for the ultimate cock and dick league, because that's what I came up with. So, I mean, it can't be wrong, right? That's obviously what it's called. So this is going to be pretty standard, like OU equivalent kind of draft league. So we're not looking at Ubers, not looking at Little Cup, it's not low tier or anything. However, it is going to be no terror. So no terror on anyone at all, no terror captains to worry about. Which is going to hopefully make things a little bit easier, but it'll be interesting to see how it sort of shakes up the meta a little bit. Now, it's going to be 2 pools of 12. All the coaches will be linked down in the description, so you can go check them out as well. And obviously, huge shout outs to Amber, also known as Gravy. Make sure you go check out her channel. She does a lot of the legwork for a lot of these leagues to actually function, building spreadsheets, doing the pricing, contacting coaches to join, everything. This is not an upload required league, so some people won't be uploading, but those who do have YouTube and stuff, I'll have those in the description, like I said. And yeah, it's 2 divisions of 12. We are in the Searing Shot division. The other one is V-Create. And there are a couple of interesting people, so we'll see who we end up facing throughout the season. But there's some good friends in this half of the league, like Shroomraver, Ellie, and Jack the Dom Fanatic, and Amber herself. So quite a few people who've faced before and be keen to face again. And then I think it's like top 4 go to playoffs, and yada yada yada. We'll go from there. So out of those 12, each pool draft separately, we were the 8th overall pick. So not the best, definitely not the worst. Close enough to sort of make a wheel, sort of, but not really. But, it's draft, you just do what you can. Apologies if you hear my new assistant coach Bella barking in the background, by the way. If she calms down, I'll let her into the room and she can come say hi, but at the moment she's just barking at everyone who walks past, so that's super fun. But yeah, with the 8th overall pick, I was pretty shocked when this mon that you see on screen was still around 8 picks in. We picked up Terrapagos. So obviously it's only the terrestrial form, can't terrestrialize into the stellar form, or else that'd be so broken. But it's still a pretty insane mon with the Terra Shell ability, basically meaning it's a anti-lose con. Like they have to try and break that before they can win, and you can just run boots to make it harder to break. And then some interesting setup options like Rock Polish and Rapid Spin, a really powerful Stab Terra Starstorm, and just like not a single bad stat. Most people would probably prefer it had lower attack and those are redistributed somewhere else, but it means you can do stuff with like rapid spin damage at least. And yeah, so this is going to be our first overall pick, and kind of sets the tone for the team. It's a mon I haven't gotten to try before, and it's very much in that bulky offense wheelhouse that I like to use, and gives me a spinner and stealth rocker right off the bat, which is really nice. And the nickname for this one I've gone for RuPaul Ghost, because I've been watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race with my partner. She's massively into it and started to get me into it, and we're like 9 seasons into a rewatch, I think. And we've watched a few other like the spin-offs as well. And so I've decided that my naming theme for this season is going to be drag queens with an asterisk, because there was one mon where I couldn't think of a good drag queen, so I've just gone with an artist who I like. But yeah, it's mostly going to be drag queens, and there's just going to be silly names, so deal with it. And first is to RuPaul Ghost, because RuPaul is probably the most successful drag queen in the world. She runs the show, her name is attached to it, etc. And she is Queen Mother, so that kind of works with Terrapagos being the one who gives everyone else the power to terrestrialize. RuPaul is the one who gives all the other drag queens a platform to project their careers off of. So then went down to the end of the wheel and back. I was looking at a couple of other mons, something like Garchomp almost made it back to me, but another mon that I was very surprised to see still around when it came back to me for my 2nd overall pick was Gouging Fire. So I have used Gouging before in the PPL NX, and I quite enjoyed it, and I'd be happy to use it a bit more and get to flesh out kind of how it runs a little bit better. But again, it's just in that bulky offense, like absolute ones that I love. Those defensive stats are just absurd. It's a really strong defensive typing. It doesn't have the most coverage in the world, but it gets around it by just being able to set up on things that it should not set up on. Like, you run Breaking Swipe and you can set up on ground types that should beat you because you just don't take any damage and you can heal up on them and then continue to DD up until you kill them. Obviously with Photosynthesis as the only ability, you can either use that with Sun, so I could have a little Sun angle going here, or with the booster energy item. Other than that, it really appreciates the hazard support, particularly hazard removal support that Terapagos gives, because it doesn't like rocks on switch in, and that means that I now have 2 mons which are just like fat, tanky offensive threats that the opponent has to try and deal with, and it's one of those, one can break for the other one to then sweep if my opponent doesn't have great checks to things. Then after that, I felt like I was lacking some immediate power. Both Gouging and Terapagos don't have the strongest hitting moves off the bat. They kind of need to get set up before they can do a lot of damage. And so I wanted things that could kind of hit hard straight out the bat. Oh, of course, Gouging Fire's nickname is Ginger Minge because it kind of has a Ginger Minge, and she's the most recent winner. Spoilers of... I don't know if anyone watching this is going to care about spoilers for RuPaul's Drag Race, but I will be spoiling some winners and stuff, and Ginger Minge does win All-Stars 10, the most recent All-Stars season, and has been around for a while, and Gouging Fire kind of just looks like it has a Ginger Minge, and I thought that was pretty funny, so we're just going with that. Next up, for that immediate power that I was looking at, I ended up grabbing Excadrill. So this is something I've been interested in for quite a while in Gen 9. So obviously like Iron Treads is the upgraded version, but Excadrill offers a couple of unique things over Iron Dreads. The special bulk is like very slightly better, with a better HP stat, and then obviously it's the Sand Rush and Mold Breaker is what Excadrill provides, and the immediate power off the bat with that 135 attack stat that Iron Treads cannot offer. Obviously Treads has a better move pool, better speed tier, ability to use booster energy to just run away with games at the end, etc. But I felt like for the point difference, I was actually really happy to get Excadrill, and I think Treads had already gone anyway. But a lot of people are saying it's kind of like dropped off, but I remember using this thing in Gen 6 where it was just insane, and I had it with a sand core there, so now I've got potential for 2 different weathers if I wanted to. But even without sand, the ability to boost its speed with rapid spin is really nice. It's a second spinner and stealth rocker, so I take some of the pressure off Terapagos needing to do that. Dual stabs is pretty much the only coverage it gets. It gets like Shadow Claw and Poison Jab and a couple other things. Nothing that hits too hard. Really lacks like Ice Spinner or anything like that. But I still think it has a lot of potential as a mon. And it's something that I'm fairly comfortable with. And again, it's just got that good HP stat, a reasonable typing, which allows it to run fairly bulky if you need it to, or it can be fast. Choice Scarf, Molt Breaker, EQ is always nice. And I'm excited to see sort of how it pairs up in the new meta. And we've gone for a really silly name on this one, Alexa Madrill. This is theoretically like Alexis Michelle, but with Excadrill kind of ham-fisted in there. Look, these names are dumb, but it's fun, so we're going to go with it. But, Excadrill, I said I want immediate power right out the box, and Excadrill provides me one of those things with Earthquake, but I figured I needed a little bit more, and particularly something on the special side, and I ended up picking up Enamorous. So this thing just has a monstrous, again, 135 special attack stat with Stab Moonblast. This also offers me slightly higher speed tier. So far all 3 of my mons have been a really like close band from 85 to 91. This offers me something over that base 100s. As I remember with Iron Treads and Gouging Fire, there's a really neat interaction where Modest Enamorous outspeeds Gouging Fire by 2 points. So anything like speed creeping Gouging Fire to 310, I can run Modest Enamorous and get to 311 if I'm being cheeky with my speed creeps. So that's kind of a nice jump there. this thing is probably the most frail mod I have on the draft, like of everything. It does have usable special bulk and a reasonably good defensive typing for certain things like Garchomp, but the main appeal is definitely that special offense. It can go physical as well with that 115 attack, particularly with Contrary. You can run Contrary Superpower with this thing, which is fun, but we're mostly just going to be clicking Moonblast with an Amorous. It gives me a ground immunity, which is nice, having picked up 2 ground weaknesses, so it just forces opponents to think about their coverage or think about their choice ones a little bit more. And an Amorous is going to be named after Violet Chachki, who is an iconic like high fashion queen, who had this one look where she like cinched her waist down to like that kind of side. It was crazy. And an Amorous with like the snake wrapped around his neck kind of reminded me of that, and it just gives that same kind of like sassy energy, so I thought Violet Chachki was a good fit for an Amorous. Then another thing that this gives me is Healing Wish, which is really nice into Terapagos and Gouging Fire. And I decided I didn't just want one Healing Wish mon, I wanted a second. So I needed a little bit of utility and some pivots on this team. I had the power, I had the sweepers, but I needed some things that could like come in and take a hit and then pivot out to get into something else and provide a little bit of utility. And Mesprit is like the ultimate utility mon. It's always been known as like a budget Mew because it has access to so many moves and then just very flat across the board stats. And so hoping to be able to use those to make it a defensive switch into the kind of whatever I need to handle on the opponent's team. Second ground immunity is really nice to help patch up that little bit of a ground weakness I've got going. And it just gets like insane niche moves like dual screens, Healing Wish, like I said, U-turn, Psychic Noise. It gets lots and lots of coverage. It gets Encore, it gets Taunt, I'm pretty sure. It's another Stealth Rocker. I can run Trick Room. There's just like lots of things I can do with this thing to enable the shenanigans of the rest of the team. It's unlikely to ever be a sweeper, but we could run away with the game with like a Calm Mindset if we need to. Calm Mind Stored Power could look really good one week. So it's just kind of a mon that has a lot of options, and hopefully I can use those options to enable the offense that I've already drafted. And then of course, it's going to be named Irene the Alien, who's one of my favorite drag queens. Actually saw her live a couple of weeks ago. And she just kind of has that like kind of quirky, I'm pretty sure there is a look that she's done where she's like fully pink in the face. And it looks like, Mesprit looks like a look that Irene would actually do. And she's also done some like really ethereal kind of looks, like with like wings and all sorts of cool stuff from her show as well. So I feel like Mesprit just fit the vibes, honestly, so that's what we're going with for Mesprit's nickname. Then I needed a water type. Again, this first 6 picks are all things that I basically built a plan and then just kept picking the next thing on the plan. It was great. I looked at what I could use, and like an ice resist was going to be nice because my fire type was neutral and my steel type was neutral. Having a spin blocker was going to be nice as well. Always good to have another ability to check normal type moves rather than just your steel type for whatever reason. And Basculegion had the perfect typing, and unfortunately in this league it's either male or female. If I could have got both for the one pick, that would have been fantastic, just to open up my options even more. But given I was limited to one, I decided to pick Basculegion female, because the defensive stats are the same and the speed stat is the same, so the only thing you're looking at is the difference in attack and special attack, and the female one is more special leaning, and I felt like that was more what the team needed, particularly with like, the thing with Basculegion male is it doesn't get great Ghost Stab because Last Respect is always banned, and so you end up running like Shadow Ball anyway and usually go mixed. And with the adaptability, 92 attack is still very, very useful. Like, you don't get the same power as you do out of like a banded Wave Crash from Basculegion male with 112 attack, but its ability to be flexible week to week, like there are weeks where you're going to want Basculegion male to be primarily special anyway, and then special attack is just not as comparable, whereas Basculegion female is a little bit flexible either way. And so I decided I wanted to go with that because if I need to, I can just run like Banded with Flip Turn and Aqua Jet and Wave Crash, and it'll just be a little bit weaker, but it'll still be really fucking strong because that's what Basculegion does. There's another mon that I did get to use before in PPLNX, but I would be so keen to use it for a full season, and so that's what we've gone ahead and done. And again, it just rounds out this like bulky core that I have of a team where it's like there are just fat ones that can also do damage back, and it really fits the playstyle that I'm kind of going for. Now, Basque Legion female, I've named Sasha Colby because she's super fishy, and that's kind of a word for the people who don't follow drag culture, word they use for like very like sexy, feminine presenting kind of thing. And so I figured the fish on my team should probably be a queen who's super fishy. And Sasha is also a woman, so until a while ago, drag was kind of considered more for men to do, and then slowly with like the advent of trans culture and things like that, they started opening up to more like, you know, lots of men who did drag end up revealing they were transgender women, and now it's open to trans women, cis women, whatever. Anyone can do drag. It's more just like the sense of fashion and comedy and makeup and all those kind of things intersecting is kind of what makes drag what it is, and the performing aspect. But anyway, I figured given Basque Legion female is locked into being female, I would go for a fishy queen who was a woman, and that is Sasha Colby. So at this point, those 6 picks, like I said, I was pretty sorted on quite quickly, and I'm really glad I got them. Then I was a little bit unsure where to go from there. And so at this point, we're going to go to things that changed when I had the grace period. So I originally picked up Hisuian Samurott because I really wanted a dark type to patch up the ghost and dark weakness I'd sort of accrued. Like my only dark resist at this point was Enamorous, which is not super bulky and isn't going to want to switch in on like a Roaring Moon knockoff, for example. So I wanted something else that could handle those hits, take on the ghost types and the dark types a little bit better, and Hisuian Samurott was still around, and I was like, that's crazy, it shouldn't be there. But it kind of doubled up on the water type with Basque Legion, and it was in a very cramped speed tier. It didn't really offer me a lot other than Ceaseless Edge, which is obviously really great, but I was like, am I going to be really wanting to use spikes all the time, given my spin blocker is also a water type? So if I want to bring a water type, I probably bring one or the other, and so I can't spike stack and then have my spin blocker on the field at the same time. I end up going for a different dark type instead, and that is going to be Zarude. So with Zarude, it helps patch up that ground weakness a little bit more. Obviously, the grass dark typing is not ideal, but the weaknesses that it does have are actually patched fairly well across the board by the rest of my team. Like, you go between this and Gouging and Basque Legion is already pretty great, where like the other two resist bug. They can take the ice and the fire type hits that Zarude doesn't want to take. The other thing is I don't really have a great flying resist outside of Excadrill at this point, but like the point is, even though it's a bad typing, the stats are fantastic, and it gives me a particular typing that actually fit with the rest of my team relatively well. It gives me another Speedy Mon. I wanted something else that I can run Speedy, so I don't just have to bring like Choice Scarf and Animus every single week. And again, it's just fat. Like 105, 105, 95 defense is crazy defensive spread, like absolutely insane. And this king can really take advantage of those kind of stats with like bulk up or SD Trailblaze and just be a bulky hit to live to get those setup moves off, or it can just be straight offensive. Like, it's got a very usable attack stat out of the box with stab moves like Power Whip and Knockoff really leaning themselves to a little bit more power, and so this thing fit really well and gave me another sort of pivot, but a slightly faster one, with ability to U-turn and switch in on ground moves that other things don't want to take, etc. I'm actually really keen to try out Zarude here, and Zarude will be called Sasha Velour because one of Zarude's best stab moves is Petal Blizzard, and Sasha Velour had this like iconic moment in the lead up to her win where they're having like a battle of lip syncing performances basically, and I'll put a gif of it on screen or something, but she like pulls off her gloves and each of them have like rose petals underneath, and then she pulls off her wig and it has more rose petals pouring off underneath, and it was just like people lost their minds. And so given Zarude is going to use Petal Blizzard, I thought that was most appropriate for Sasha Velour, so that's what we're going to go with there. Then also another change I made in Grace. Originally this mon was Illumise, which kind of was the patch up the ground weakness with a really cheap mon that can actually do some things. You know, obviously it's Encore, the Tinted Lens Bug Buzz actually can do some work sometimes. But end up dropping it because of the downgrade from Hisuian Samurott to Zarude, open up some more points and they wanted to get something else in there instead. And with the loss of Hisuian Samurott, I really wanted Spike somewhere on the team so that I could hazard stack if I wanted to, and ended up grabbing Quagsire. So this is partly because my partner absolutely loves Quagsire. She's the reason I had to draft Wooper in the Little Cup League in the MGL I was in. But it offers a completely different like defensive profile to something like Basculegion, so it feels a bit more appropriate to bring them. And obviously like that grass weakness is not an issue when I have a Zarude and a Grouching Fire to happily switch in and take those moves. Like, oh, you want to lock into Choice Banded Woodhammer? Enjoy letting Gouging Fire DD all over your face. Basically going to be either using Water Absorb or Unaware pretty much any week. Water Absorb if I want to stop things slip turning, or Unaware if I need something to stop a sweep. Quagsire is one of those mons where like the stats look disappointing, but defensively it's able to just get away with like living the things it needs to live and then doing the utility that it needs to do with Stealth Rock, Recover, Spikes, just, you know, Quagsire things, just what it does. Pretty sure it gets Recover, right? Yeah. And so it can hazard stack, it can heal up, it can just go for chip damage with like Earthquake or Liquidation. I don't know if it gets Scald still, I don't think it does, but you know, we can work around that. Actually it gets Toxic Spikes as well, which I forgot. So that's kind of nice, can go full hazard stack if I need to. And you know, I was pretty comfortable doing insane crap with Wooper, so I'll see if I can pull off any insane like Trick Room, Life Orb, Quagsire sweeps with something in future. And then Quagsire is going to be called Cynthia Lee after Cynthia Lee Fontaine. She won Miss Congeniality, which is kind of in the competition, the like nice person one. And Quagsire just gives me that like, no one gets mad about Quagsire. It's just like a dopey looking dude who everyone is friends with. And that's kind of the vibe that Cynthia Lee brings to Drag Race. So that's what Quagsire is going to be named after. So now we're back to picks that I actually made in the draft. The main thing lacking from this team at this point was just like speed, things that could outspeed like the base 120s. You know, you're looking at things like Taunty and Iron Valiant and being like, if they outrun my entire team, it's pretty easy for them to just run through things. Even though I do have bulk, it'll be nice to have something that can threaten to outspeed. And so for a budget speed pick, I end up picking up Jolteon. This thing, since the beginning of Draft League, has been known as like a budget MVP sometimes, because fast electric types are just good. Obviously with the loss of hidden power, it really struggles a lot more than it used to, but it gets some interesting coverage with like Shadow Ball and Alluring Voice, and it basically is just here to click Volt Switch. That's what it does best, and then occasionally Thunderbolt. The ability Volt Absorb does give me an extra electric immunity as well, and it's just going to be fast. It's not going to hit the hardest, but if I need a fast electric type, or it's got usable special bulk as well, so it can be used as like a pivot into some of those flying types that might be an issue as well. It's just nice to have that option there to bring this thing, be really fast. If I need to, I can run Quick Feet and just outspeed stuff and get off quick hits. Jolteon is going to be called Georges because she's a little bit of a spark plug, like high energy kind of person, and that fits with Jolteon's vibe. Then one of the other important things people talk about in draft after I've got like Fire, Water, Grass core, I've got a speedy electric type, but I don't have a grounded poison type yet. At this point I only had 6 points left, and was looking at poison types, and Swalot was actually on the plan for a little while and then ended up getting taken, but that's fine because we had Muck on the board as well. And Muck is a mon I actually haven't used, but it seems like the type of mon that fits my style. It's got very usable bulk, it's got just enough attack to not be passive, as it is more of a like defensive switch in. It gives me a grounded poison type with access to Toxic Spikes, which is something I really appreciate. It's got reasonable coverage with like Earthquake. Actually, does it get Earthquake? It does not get Earthquake. I lied. I thought it used to get Earthquake, but it gets Knockoff, and that's nice. It gets Shadow Sneak for a little bit of priority because we don't have a ton. We basically just have Aqua Jet on Basculegion, and I think that's it. I don't think we have priority anywhere else on the team. So even just something that can revenge the occasional mon is nice. And yeah, just has some interesting moves, like you can run a curse disable nonsense if we want, but main thing is just that poison typing. It also gives me another knockoff switch in with sticky hold, which is nice, or I can just try to get poisons on things with my contact moves, which is pretty good. Muck has kind of never been great in standard competitive play, but in draft it's kind of remained one of those like staple low tier pick mons that just does what it does well and can sometimes really surprise people with its bulk and become a real problem for them. So looking forward to get to use it and maybe pulling off some nonsense. Now, as is tradition with a lot of the leagues that Amber runs these days, even though we're out of points, there are 0 point mons on the board. And there were two things I was looking for with my 0 point mons. First of all, Pineco, no longer a 0 point mon, because I showed it can do work. It's basically better than Fortress. But one thing I was looking at was potential of grassy terrain with this team to make Terrapagos and Gouging Fire just even more disgusting, and potentially enables Root to click Glassy Glide as well. End up picking up Grookey basically just for that Grassy Surge ability. I mean, it's a little Cupmon, it doesn't have very good stats, but with a Violite, it can maybe do something with Terrain Extender. I can maybe switch it in, sack it, and then enable the sweep with something else. It's an option that my team now has, which I wouldn't have without that 0 point pick. And that's kind of what I like to look for with my 0 pointers, is like, they're never going to do the most work, but if they can do something, and if they can force your opponent to think about an option, then it's worth it for 0 points. And that's what I went for with Grookey. Grookey is going to be called G-Flip. This is why there was an asterisk. Oh, I didn't talk about the Muck nickname either, so I'll go back to that one in a second. But the Grookey nickname is G-Flip, who is an Australian non-binary drummer who's like super famous, and people love them. And so, because Grookey, turns into Rillaboom the drummer, I sort of thought that fit more. I couldn't find like a really famous drag queen drummer. I'm sure there is one out there, but I'm new to this, so like, be nice. And so I ended up going for this instead, just because I felt like it fit. With Muck, the name is after Mistress Isabel Brooks, because she can be a little bit toxic, or like to stir the pot a little bit and stir some drama. Obviously, like, there's people on different sides of it. Some people think she's great, some people don't like her as much, but because of just like the controversy that she gets involved with, I felt like she fit with Muck as the like kind of slightly toxic queen. And she's well known for being like a big queen, and Muck is obviously quite large on the special side in particular, so I felt like that just fit relatively well. And then to round out the draft after Grookey, we picked up another 0 point mon, and that's going to be Tinkatink. Now, why did I pick up Tinkatink? Because I think, can you see it? But I have a Tinkatink plush. I don't think you can see it in the background. But it's I think it's just out of shot, so I'll see if I can like angle this down. Yeah, you can see a little Tinkatink there sleeping on top of Charmander. So it's just in the shot now, just right down the bottom. And this is a pure mascot pick. I don't think Tinkatink provides anything that can be used other than a fantastic defensive typing that maybe walls something. Like, maybe if someone's like brings their Dragalge, I'll force it to run Fire Blast just to deal with Tinkatink or something. But that's kind of it. Like, it's not really here to do a lot. It's just here to be on the team, and it adds a nice defensive profile at least. Maybe there'll be a point where it can do something, and unfortunately it does not get Gigaton Hammer, so it's not going to be doing that, but it gives me another Stealth Rocker, and that's nice. And then Tinkatink is going to be named Pheromone, because Tinkatink is like known for crying kind of all the time. It's got a very cryy face, and Pheromone on her season cried like every time she was on screen. And she was young, she's like 21, and it's a lot to be on like national reality TV when you do that. So we have a lot of compassion for it, but it's still kind of funny to name Tinkatink after her. And that's going to be it. So we're going to be uploading, I think because upload's not required, I think I'll just upload on Saturdays for this one. So this will come up on the Saturday, and then each week after this, you will see the next week's battle. And our first opponent is going to be Zachmander, who's someone who I don't think we've actually played, but we've been in leagues around, unless I played him in NGL, but I don't think so. I think we haven't actually played him. So it'll be cool to get the chance to do that, and you'll see his team when I upload that team builder. So with that, I hope you're along for